I'm about to show you the rejection letter that never gets sent. Last year, 2.1 million students applied to top colleges and 96% got rejected. But here's what nobody tells you. Most of those rejections happened in the first 90 seconds. Not because of test scores, not because of grades, because of 7 specific mistakes that admissions officers see in almost every application. I've reviewed over 500 applications and I can predict with scary accuracy which ones will get rejected. Mistake number 5, 83% of applicants make it, and it's the easiest to fix. But mistake number 7 is the one that makes admissions officers stop reading completely. I'll show you exactly what it looks like and why it's so deadly. By the end of this video, you'll know if your application is about to get rejected, and more importantly, how to fix it before you submit. But before I reveal mistake number 1, you need to understand the one thing that every single rejection has in common. Here's what connects every rejection. The application feels manufactured. Not fake, manufactured. Like it was designed by committee. Like someone followed a formula. And admissions officers can sense it in seconds. They call it the smell test. Your application either smells real or it smells rehearsed. And if it smells rehearsed, you're done. So let's start with the mistake that creates that smell in almost every application. This is mistake number 1, and it's probably the one you're making right now as you write your essays. Mistake number 1 is the fakeness detector. It's the red flag that kills your application in 30 seconds. Admissions officers have read over 50,000 essays. They can spot inauthentic passion in 3 sentences. And the moment they sense it, your application goes in the no pile, even if everything else is perfect. Here's the test they use. Would this student do this activity if colleges didn't exist? If the answer is no, you reject it. Here's the psychology behind why this works. When you write about something you don't actually care about, your brain knows it, and it shows up in your writing in specific ways. You use vague language. I've always been passionate about helping others. You tell instead of show. This experience changed my life. You use cliches. I want to make a difference in the world. Your sentences feel empty. Like you're saying the right words, but there's no life behind them. Compare that to when someone writes about something they genuinely love. They use specific details you can't make up. They tell stories that don't sound like anyone else's stories. They get excited about parts that seem boring to other people. And you can feel the difference. Now let's talk about the Guatemala problem. Here's a mistake I see constantly. My service trip to Guatemala changed my perspective on privilege. Okay, how? I realized how fortunate I am. That's it? That's your whole insight? Every student who goes to Guatemala writes this exact essay. But here's what's worse. Most of them never mention Guatemala again after they get there. They don't stay connected to the community. They don't raise money. They don't learn Spanish. It was just a resume line. A story they thought sounded good. And admissions officers know it. So what actually works? The yo-yo story. Real example from one of my case studies, a student was a competitive yo-yo champion. Sounds weird, right? He almost didn't write about it because he thought Harvard would think it wasn't serious enough. But when he wrote about the physics of yo-yo tricks, the community he built, the YouTube channel where he taught kids, that essay was electric. Because you could tell the kid would do yo-yos even if colleges didn't exist. He got into Harvard, not because yo-yos are impressive, but because his passion was undeniable. Now let's talk about the immigrant parent essay trap. Another one I see constantly. My parents immigrated with nothing and worked hard so I could have opportunities. This is a real story for millions of students. It might be your real story, but if you write it the way everyone else writes it, it becomes generic. You need to find the specific details that only your family has. Not my parents worked hard, but the exact moment when you realized what they sacrificed. Not I'm grateful for their sacrifice, but the specific way it changed what you think success means. Now here are the warning signs you're doing this right now. Read your essay out loud right now. If you hear yourself saying, I've always been passionate about, or this experience taught me, and you're using vague language, stop. Because you're writing what you think they want to hear. Here's a better test. Would you read this essay if someone else wrote it? If the answer is no, start over. But here's what's worse than writing an inauthentic essay. It's the thing that you're doing with your activities right now. And it's creating a pattern in your application that screams resume padding to every admissions officer. That's mistake number 2. And once you see it, you'll realize you're probably doing it in at least 3 places on your application. Keep watching because I'm about to show you the exact moment an admissions officer realizes you're padding your resume. So mistake number 2 is the resume padding death spiral. Let me show you something that will make you uncomfortable. Pull up your activity list right now. Look at it. How many of those activities would you still do if colleges didn't exist? Be honest, because Here's what admissions officers do. They count how many activities where you can't tell a single specific story. That's your resume padding number. And if it's more than 50% of your activities, you're getting rejected. So here's the pattern that screams fake. You're president of club. Okay, what did you actually change? I organized meetings and planned events. That's what every president says. That's not an answer. You volunteered for 100 hours. Cool. Tell me one story from that experience. No specific memory, no real impact. Then it didn't matter. You're in 15 different activities. List 3 things you accomplished in each one. Can't do it? Then you're just collecting positions. Here's what they're really looking for. Admissions officers don't count activities. They measure depth. They ask, if we admit this student, what will they bring to our campus? If you're in 15 clubs, but you're just showing up, you're bringing nothing. But if you're in 3 activities and you've transformed all 3, now you're interesting. One student got into Harvard with 3 main activities, just 3. But here's what he did with those 3. Activity number 1, border journalism project. 1 year of work, he published articles, photojournals, and integrated his classroom. Activity number 2, school newspaper editor. Organized multi-school writing competitions and 200 plus participants. And activity number 3, immigration advocacy work. Every activity connected to a central passion. Every activity had measurable impact. Compare that to the student with 15 activities who was just in stuff. Who do you think got it? Here's what your brain does when you join too many things. You can't commit deeply to anything. So nothing becomes excellent. You don't develop real expertise. So you can't compete with specialists. You don't have time to create actual impact. So everything feels surface level. And admissions officers see this pattern instantly. They see a student who's playing it safe, hedging their bets, trying to check every box. That's not impressive. That's scared. Here's how you know if an activity is real. If I called you at 2 a.m. and asked you to talk for an hour about this activity, could you do it? Could you tell stories, explain challenges, share what you learned, describe specific moments, or would you struggle to fill 5 minutes? That's your answer. Real activities pass the 48-hour test. Resume padding doesn't. Now I'm going to say something extremely controversial. Being in National Honor Society doesn't matter. Being in National Honors is in NHS. It's not a differentiator. Unless you did something unique within NHS, you changed the chapter, you created a new program, you had specific impact. But if you just attended meetings, it's resume padding. And admissions officers know it. But even if you fix your activities, there's a deeper problem. You're probably trying to be good at everything. And that strategy, it's the exact opposite of what top schools actually want. I'm about to show you why well-rounded is the kiss of death, and why having a spike is the only thing that matters. This is mistake number 3. And it's the one that surprises people the most because it goes against everything your counselor told you. Stay with me because what I'm about to tell you about well-rounded will completely change your application style. For years, everyone told you, be well-rounded, do a little bit of everything. That advice is killing your chances. And here's why. It's based on a lie that guidance counselors keep repeating. Harvard's admission dean said this in 2019. We don't want well-rounded students. We want a well-rounded class. Read that again. They don't want well-rounded students. They want a well-rounded class. Huge difference. Now here's the math that explains everything. Harvard accepts 1,600 students per year. They could fill that entire class with 4.0 GPA and 1,600 SAT students easily. They reject thousands of them. So why do they reject perfect students? Because perfect and well-rounded means forgettable. Think about it. If you're good at everything, you're exceptional at nothing. You play 3 sports, but you're not getting recruited. You do debate, robotics, and theater, but you didn't win anything major in any of them. You have straight A's in every subject, but no particular academic passion. So what are you bringing to campus? Top schools don't want Renaissance men and women. They want specialists who will become world-class at something. They want the debate kid who's going to win nationals, the robotics student who's building actual companies, the musician performing at Carnegie Hall, the writer getting published in major outlets. Each student brings one exceptional thing. Together, they create a well-rounded class. And here's a real example, the classical music spike. One of the students from my case studies was an elite-level classical percussionist. National competitions, performed with symphony orchestras, won major awards, and he also had other activities. But his spike was music. That's what made him undeniable. Harvard didn't admit him because they needed another well-rounded student. They admitted him because they needed a world-class percussionist. So here's the question that changes everything. Here's what admissions officers ask when they read your application. If we admit the student, what specific gap are they filling in our class? If you're well-rounded, the answer is nothing specific. You're just another good student, another smart kid, another person with decent everything. But if you have a spike, you're feeling a specific need. We need a policy expert who's actually changed laws. We need an entrepreneur who's built real companies. We need a researcher who's published journals. We need an artist who's exhibited internationally. When you spread yourself too thin, you're not actually good at everything. You're mediocre at many things. And mediocre doesn't get you into Harvard. Most students are trying to be good at 5 to 10 things. The ones who get in are world-class at 1 or 2 fields. Look at every Harvard case study I've done. One student, legislative work, changed actual laws. That was her spike. Another, border journalism, year-long project, published work. Another, classical musical. Another, research, multiple published papers, competitive programs. Every single one had a spike, something they were undeniably excellent at. None of them were trying to be perfect at everything. But here's where it gets dangerous. Even if you have a spike, you can still get rejected if you make mistake number 4. Because having the spike means nothing if you can't communicate it properly in your supplemental essays. And I'm about to show you the generic essay template that gets 90% of applicants instantly rejected. You've probably used this template. Most students do without even realizing. This next mistake is costing students acceptances every single day. And it's happening in the one essay you probably wrote in 30 minutes. You spend 3 weeks on your personal statement, multiple drafts, perfect. Then you get to the why this school essays and you think, I'll just knock this out. Fatal mistake. Because here's what admissions officers do. They read your why us essay first, not your personal statement, not your activities, your why us essay. And if it's generic, they stop reading. Your application is dead. Here's how admissions officers spot a generic essay in 10 seconds. They mentally replace the school name with a different school. If the essay still makes sense, you reject it. Let me show you what this looks like. I want to attend Harvard because of its prestigious academics and diverse community. Replace Harvard with Yale. Still makes sense. Replace Harvard with Princeton. Still makes sense. Replace Harvard with literally any top school. Still makes sense. That's a rejection. So here are the 3 deadly phrases. If your why us essay contains these phrases, you're done. Number 1, prestigious academics. Number 2, diverse community. Number 3, world-class professors. Every school has this. You're saying nothing. So what actually works? Compare these 2 essays. I want to attend Columbia because of its location in New York City and strong academic programs. Now here's the more specific version. I want to work with Professor Sharon at Columbia's Data Science Institute on her research connecting quantitative analysis to public policy. Her paper on using machine learning to predict congressional voting patterns directly connects to my work analyzing local government data in my city. See the difference? One could be any school. One could only be Columbia. If you can't spend 2 hours researching a school, don't apply to it. Seriously, go through their course catalog, professor bios, look at student organizations, check recent news, find specific classes, specific research, specific programs, and specific professors. Things you couldn't find at any other school. If you can't find anything, you don't actually want to go there. This is the worst mistake you can make. You copy-paste your why Yale essay into your Harvard application and you forget to change the school name. Instant rejection, no exceptions. I've seen this happen multiple times. And it tells admissions, you don't care, you're mass applying, and you're not paying attention. So why should they pay attention to you? Now here's an example for the location trap. I want to attend Columbia because New York City offers incredible opportunities. Every Columbia applicant says this. It's not specific, it's not interesting, and it's obvious. If you mention location, you need to connect it to something specific. Columbia's location gives me access to the UN headquarters, where I want to intern with the Refugee Resettlement Program, building on my work helping asylum seekers in my community. Now, location matters because you've connected it to your specific goals. And here's a way to do professor research that actually works. Don't just name professors, show you've read their work. Now here's a bad example and a good example. I want to work with Professor Smith. And here's the good example. Professor Smith's research on affordable housing policy mirrors my work analyzing zoning laws in my city. His paper on inclusionary zoning specifically addressed the split rate taxation model I'm proposing to my city council. You can't fake this level of research, and admissions officers know it. But even perfect essays won't save you if you make mistake number 5. This is the mistake I see in 83% of applications. And it's the one that makes admissions officers question everything else you wrote. Because when they catch you doing this, they start wondering, what else did you lie about? This next one is uncomfortable, but you need to hear it before you submit. Mistake number 5 is the lie that ends everything. 83% of students do this, and here's how they get caught. I'm about to tell you something that will make you uncomfortable, but you need to hear it before you submit your application. Because this mistake is not just a rejection, it's a permanent black mark that follows you. So here's the slippery slope. It starts small. You volunteered for 40 hours, but you write 50 because you know you probably spent extra time you didn't log. You helped with the project, but you write lead because you did contribute a lot. You raised $500 for a cause, but you write $5,000 because your whole organization raised that much. These feel like small exaggerations, harmless, but they're not. So what actually happens? Admissions officers verify activities. Let me say that again. They verify activities. When you say you founded a nonprofit, they look it up. IRS database, state registration, web presence. When you say you publish research, they search for it. Google Scholar, journal databases. When you say you won an award, they check the organization's website, past winners list. And when your story doesn't match reality, For example, student claimed to have founded a nonprofit that raised $50,000. Admissions officer looked it up. The nonprofit existed, but it was founded by the student's parent 3 years ago. The student had helped, but founded and raised $50,000? Complete lies. Instant rejection, flagged in the system, and can't reapply. Another example, student claimed to be published in a scientific journal. They paid $2,000 for a program that guarantees publication in their predatory journal. Admissions officers know these programs. They know the journal names. Instant rejection. And here's the R's problem that catches everyone. Students lie about R's more than anything else. I spent 20 hours per week on Model UN. I spent 15 hours per week on debate. I spent 10 hours per week on student government. I spent 20 hours per week on my nonprofit. That's 65 hours per week. Plus school, that's 35 hours. Plus homework, 10 to 20 hours. Plus sleep, that's 56 hours. 176 hours per week. There are 168 hours in a week. Admissions officers do this math, and when it doesn't add up, they know you're lying. And here's something most students don't know. For borderline applications, admission officers call your school counselor. They ask specific questions about your activities, your leadership positions, your impact. If your counselor says, I'm not aware of that, or that's not quite how I describe it, you're rejected. And now you're flagged for dishonesty. Even if you don't get caught, lying hurts your application. And here's why. When you lie about being a leader of something you can't write about the real experience, you can't tell specific stories. You can't explain what you actually learned. Your essays become vague because you're writing about something that didn't happen. Compare that to writing honestly about what you actually did. Real challenges and real growth. That's compelling. Everyone thinks starting a nonprofit is impressive. So students found nonprofits by making a website, registering with their state. Takes like 30 minutes, never actually doing anything, and claiming massive impact they didn't create. Admissions officers see through this instantly. They look for IRS 501c3 status, takes months to get, actual programs running, real funding sources, measurable impact, sustained activity. If you just made a website, that's not a nonprofit. That's a lie. One of the students from my case studies was tempted to say she led a research project. Truth? She was a research assistant. She helped collect data. She almost lied. But then she wrote honestly about the experience, the specific experiments, the tedious parts, the moment when data showed something unexpected. That honesty made it powerful. She got into Harvard. If she had lied about leading it, she couldn't have written those specific details. So, before you submit, ask, if an admission officer called my school right now, would they verify this? If they Google this, will they find evidence supporting my claim? Can I tell 5 specific stories about this experience without preparation? If you answer no to any of these, you're exaggerating. Fix it. But here's what's interesting. Even students who are completely honest make mistake number 6. And it's costing them acceptances because they're applying to schools where they fundamentally don't fit. I'm about to show you how to tell if you're wasting your application fee on a school that will never accept you. Mistake number 6 is ignoring the fit test. You're applying to schools that will never accept you. And I don't mean because of your grades. I mean because you fundamentally don't fit. Now here's the shotgun strategy that fails. You apply to 20 schools, all the Ivies, Stanford, MIT, a few UCs, and some safeties. Costs $2,000 plus in application fees, and result, rejections from every single reach school. Why? Because you weren't thinking about fit. You were chasing prestige, and admissions officers can smell it in your application. So here's the question they're really asking. When admissions officers read your application, they're asking, would this student actually be happy here? Not, is this student qualified? Qualified students get rejected every day. Students who fit get accepted. Let's say a student applies to both MIT and Brown. MIT wants technical depth, problem-solving ability, and hands-on builders. Brown wants intellectual curiosity, interdisciplinary thinking, and academic exploration. These are fundamentally different schools, different cultures, and different values. If you're writing the same application for both, neither school believes you actually want to be. You're just collecting applications. So here are the 3 questions that reveal fit. Before applying to any school, ask yourself, can I name 3 specific things about this school that I can't find anywhere else? If I got in, would I be genuinely excited to attend, or would I just be proud of the name? Number 3, when I imagine myself on this campus, do I feel energized or anxious? If you can't answer these honestly, don't apply. But even if you apply to perfect fit schools, there's one mistake that will get you rejected instantly, before they even read your essays. And it's so obvious, so preventable, and yet I see it in dozens of applications every year. This is mistake number 7, the one that makes admissions officers stop reading completely. You spend 3 months on your application. Perfect essays, strong activities, great recommendations. Then you make one careless mistake that destroys everything. This is mistake number 7, and it's the most preventable one on this list. The wrong school name. This happens more than you think. You're working on multiple applications, copy-pasting essays, moving fast, and you forget to change the school name. When admissions officers see this, they stop reading immediately. Not because they're offended, but because it tells them everything they need to know. You're not paying attention, you don't actually care, and you're mass applying without thought. Now here's another part of this mistake. The typo that reveals everything. 1 or 2 typos, they'll overlook it. Everyone makes a mistake. But 5 typos, 7, even 10, that's not a mistake. That's carelessness. And it signals this student doesn't care about details. They don't take this seriously. So why should we take them seriously? And next is the activity section disaster. This is where I see the most mess. Descriptions that make no sense. Unclear impact, obvious padding with no substance, dates that don't add up, R's that are mathematically impossible. So before you submit any application, do this. Step 1, read every essay out loud. If you stumble, rewrite that sentence. Step 2, have someone else read everything. Fresh eyes catch mistakes you'll never see. Step 3, print your entire application. Review it on paper. Errors jump out on physical pages. Step 4, check every school name. Use the find and replace function and search for every college name in every essay. Step 5, verify every date, every number, every R count, and do the math and make sure it's possible. Step 6, open every PDF you uploaded. Actually click on them and view them. Verify they're correct and readable. Here's what you need to understand. I just showed you 7 mistakes that get students rejected, but they all stem from the same root problem. And once you understand this, everything about college admissions makes sense. Mistake number 1, you're writing what you think they want instead of who you are. Mistake number 2, you're doing activities to impress instead of pursuing genuine interest. Mistake number 3, you're trying to be perfect at everything instead of exceptional at something. Mistake number 4, you're writing generic essays instead of specific researched ones. Mistake number 5, you're exaggerating to sound impressive instead of being honestly yourself. Mistake number 6, you're chasing prestige instead of finding genuine fit. Mistake number 7, you're rushing because you're overwhelmed instead of being meticulous. See the pattern? Every single mistake comes from the same place. You're trying to game the system. So what actually works? The students who get into Harvard, Yale, Stanford, they're not gaming anything. They're not trying to figure out what colleges want. They're showing who they actually are, with specificity, with depth, with authenticity. Now, if this video just saved your application, hit subscribe because I'm breaking down college admissions every week with real examples from real students. Drop a comment right now. Which mistake were you making? Be honest. We're all learning. Now, here's the thing. I just showed you what gets you rejected, but what actually gets you accepted? I analyzed hundreds of Ivy League acceptances and found 6 specific signs that predict admission. Students who have at least 4 of these signs, they get in at a scary high rate. I have broken down all 6 of these signs in this video. Click it now to see if you have what it takes. And if you want someone to review your application before you submit and catch these mistakes before it's too late, link in the description to book a free discovery call. Your application is too important to mess up. Fix these mistakes, check if you have the sixth sense, get accepted. See you in the next one.